vegan brownies, right? So she makes this batch of vegan brownies, and my wife had like 2 of them. And then the next time I looked, there was maybe a third of the pan of these vegan brownies left. And so I said, wow, that's a lot of brownies. So I went to bed, and I wake up, and I can see that our daughter's bedroom light is still on. So it just feels kind of late to me. So I go creeping down the hallway, open the door. She's getting ready for bed. I said, are you still up? She says, I'm going to bed right now. I said, oh, okay. So I close her door, and I mosey into the kitchen, and it's 4 a.m. And I go back, and I said, are you serious? You're just now going to bed? And she says, brownies have a lot of caffeine in them. So, yes, she was just going to bed. Howdy, everybody. Welcome to the Jonathan and Gwen Show.
Good morning. Speaking of caffeine, just a minute.
Howdy, Penelope. Howdy, Sky. Howdy, Tammy.
Ooh. Hang on to your pancakes. I'm not even there yet, so I can't say hi to everybody yet.
That's good. Maple syrup hoarder of syrup made from the blood of a maple tree.
What is maple syrup? Quit being against me because I'm from Canada. Good morning, Tammy. Good morning, Penelope. Good morning, Sky. Who else is there?
Fun to say? Sky.
That was going to be actually the name of one of my children. I was going to call them. But my husband didn't go for it. Hey, Marla.
Hi, Marla. So anyways.
It needs more cream. It needs more cream. I can't drink this coffee without it not having more cream. Oh my gosh.
Chocolate cream? Maple cream.
I'm going to just...
Okay. So while she's doing that, howdy, Brenda. While she's doing that, I am going to jump back into what we were talking about towards the end of our discussion last week, okay, in relation to the Revelation chapter 13, 18, okay, and for those that don't have it completely memorized, like me, I'll read that. It says, here's wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, it is the number of 666. Okay, that word count right there. Remember, if you will, that one of the things I was saying about the G7 is they resolve, they get their power from the people, right? The people being identified, the waters in Revelation 13 being identified as people and nations and kindreds and tongues. Okay, and I said that these G7 nations have a tradition of voting, letting the people have a decision or make a choice. You know, okay, would you like A or would you like B? You know, they don't get to choose A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but they get, you know, a choice of one or the other, typically. So that word count in the Strongs is Greek word 5585. It's sophizo. It's from 5586. It means to use pebbles for enumeration, i.e. to compute or to count. Okay, now 5586 is siphos. It's the same as 5584. It's a pebble as worn smooth by handling, i.e. by implication of use as a counter or a ballot. Okay, a verdict of acquittal, a ticket of admission. It is a vote. So Just let that
Sink in.
chew on that for a little while. All right. And did anybody else sneak in while I was yakking?
No. But hi, Brenda.
Hello, Brenda. Thank you for the referral to Dave's 45 channel.
Dave's 45?
Yes, that was for Brenda.
Oh,
anyway.
Okay.
So today I want to backtrack a little bit into the G7 nations that I believe are the kingdom that the little beast will be acquiring for his seat of power. And so, you got that website, Gwen?
Yep.
Okay, so we have this website. It's called Aneki, not Anunnaki. But yes, there is a kind of a similarity there, isn't there? That. Howdy, the messenger reveals. Welcome, and glad Moni, hopefully she'll come in and say hi today.
Yes, good morning.
Anyways, oh, that's what I was going to do. Here's the link to this website we're checking out right now. This is on the G7 group of countries, and we're just going to go over the G7 and the capital population, their average income, and then run down this group of memberships on each one. So I'll read one, Gwen will read the next one, and we'll continue like that until they're done.
But what if I can't pronounce them? I just have to do their initials then.
Just make it up. You do that anyways.
No, like, you mean the next, like, Canada and then the next one?
Well, oh, that's France. Okay, anyways.
You should just read it because I might just KO it.
I'm not going to read all of them.
Okay, fine.
You can read every other one.
Okay, fine.
I trust you to get the message out.
Just don't.
Okay, so in Canada, the capital is Ottawa. Population at the time of this writing was just under 35 million, with an average per capita income of $43,100 per year. And I believe they're putting these in US dollars. Okay, now the memberships it belongs to, the ACCT, the ADB, it's a non-regional member. So it's not even a part of this region, but it's still a member. The AFDB, non-regional member. APEC, the Arctic Council. ARF, ASEAN, which is the an Asian what is it? Australia, Southeast Asia, and New Zealand alliance, I believe. They're a dialogue partner. Australia Group, BIS, CDB, CE, they're an observer. The EAPC, the EBRD, the ESA, a cooperating state, the FAO. Like I said before, this G7 has these other groups to make other countries feel like they belong, right? G20, of course, the G7, the G8, the G10, the IADB, the IAEA, the IBRD, the ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization, the ICC, the ICCT, the ICRM, the IDA, the IEA, IFAD, IFC, IFR, CS, IHO, ILO, IMF, International Monetary Fund. Remember, money, for the love of money is the root of all evil. IMO, IMSO, Interpol, IOC, IOM, IPU, ISO, the ITSO, the ITU, the ITUC, MIGA, the MINUSTA, MONEC, NAFTA, NAM, they're a guest, NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, everybody but Japan of the G7 is a member of that. The NEA, the NSG, the OAS, the OECD, the OIF, the OPCW, the OSCE, the Paris Club. If you have not researched the Paris Club, look that up. PCA, the PIF, they're a partner of the SECI, they're an observer. And then a whole bunch of UN organizations. Followed by the UPU, the WCL, the WCO, WFTO, WHO, World Health Organization, lies, WIPO, the WMO, the WTO, the World Trade Organization, which replaced the GATT. Okay, WTO replaced GATT, which was the General Agreements on Trades and Tariffs, and the ZC.
Huh.
Your turn.
Hello, Jimmy and Jimmy's daughter.
You scoundrel! Howdy, Jimmy's daughter. Okay, go ahead. Come on.
Okay. Okay, so this is France, right?
Frenchy, yeah.
Okay, so Paris is the capital. The population is almost 67,000.
Almost
Is that right?
67,000 or 67 million.
67 million. Sorry, yeah. Per capita is 35,000 roughly a year. Memberships: ADB, non-regional members; AFDB, which is still continuing as a non-regional member; the Arctic Council, which is just an observer; Australia Group; BDEAC, BIS, BSEC, observer; CBSS, observer. So stop if you know some of these that you haven't mentioned already. CE, CERN, SERN, EAPC, EBRD, EIB, EMU, ESA, EU, FAO, FZ, or Z for my southern neighbors, G20, G5, G7, G8, G10, IADB, IAEA, IBRD, ICAO, ICC, ICC, lowercase t for some reason, ICRM, IDA, IEA, IFAD, IFC, IFRCS, IHO, ILO, IMF, IMO, IMSO, INOC, Interpol, IOC, IOM, IPU, ISO, ITSO, ITU, ITUC, MIGA, Minocrat, Minnesota, Minnesota, MONUC, NATO, NEA, NSG, OAS, Observer, OECD, OIF, OPCW, OSCE, the Paris Club, PCA, PIF, Partner, Shenanigan Convention. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right.
Schengen Convention.
Yeah, SECI, Observer, SPC, UN Security Council, UN AMID, UN CTAD, UN ESCO, UN HCR, UN IDO, UN IFIL, Union Latina, UNITAR, UNMIL. There's a lot more UNs on this one.
Well, I just skipped over them on the last.
Oh, yeah, there's lots of UNs, and then it jumps to UPU, WADB, non-regional, WCL, WCO, WEU, WFTU, WHO, WIPO, WMO, WTO, and ZC. Holy granola bars.
Now,
there's more.
Something that
there's more on that one.
Yeah, well, there's a lot on there. They've been around longer though. But something that was on that list that was not on the list that I had previously read for Canada was CERN, right? Which everybody here, I think, has heard of CERN, right? The particle collider over yonder in Europe on the border of Switzerland and France. And I'm just looking back at Canada. So anyways, NATO, again, right? North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which there's a lot more nations in that than there used to be. Okay, so for Germany, I'm going to go through, and it's all the same ones. There's nothing new under Germany, right?
Yeah, and you know what? There's a lot less there listed, though.
Right, that their population, almost 81 million, per capita income, just under $40,000 a year. Italy, almost 62 million, 61.5 million population. The income, 29,600 per year. They too are members of CERN. Germany, members of CERN, which is a European scientific organization, even though they invite all kinds of people. Italy is also a member of the Union Latina. And Japan, you would think it would be a bunch of different ones, but no, right? We got the same organization, right? The what?
Holy granola bars. Population 127 million, roughly.
Yep.
And their GDP is 37,000.
Yep. That United Kingdom. Now this is interesting because on this list, I don't see listed the British Commonwealth, right? Which the British Commonwealth is huge. When you talk about nations that aren't a member of the G7 aligning in certain ways with the G7, the British Commonwealth of Nations is huge. So basically, it's everywhere that used to be a colony of Great Britain, with the exception of the United States and a couple of others, joins this Commonwealth, so they have a voice internationally that can be heard. The United States population, according to this, just under 320 million, per capita income 52,800. And of course, a couple of the new ones in here, ANZUS, the Australia, New Zealand, US treaty. Let's see what else is in there. SARC, I think that was on a couple of the others. Now, something else that's interesting, in my opinion, of these countries, right? Of these G7 countries, right? We have Japan, Canada, United States, Great Britain, France, Germany, and Italy. For the United Nations, there are only 5 members out of 192 members or something like that. For the United Nations, there are only 5 countries that have the ability to veto something that's been being voted on. They can just override everybody's choice and veto it. And those nations are Russia, China, France, the United States, and Great Britain. So there's three-fifths, right? 3/5 of the ability to veto any subject that comes up in the United Nations belongs to the G7, right? And any one of those nations can veto something and it doesn't pass. So, I mean, it's just like very similar to a presidential veto, right? You can have every member of Congress vote for it, but if the president vetoes it, then that's it. Sayonara, too bad, so sad.
Hmm.
Oops. Howdy, Jasmine.
Hey,
Howdy,
Ivan.
Ivan.
So, paying homage.
The what?
Paying homage.
Right, paying homage. And if you get a chance, there is a website. I'll look it up real quick.
D is here too?
Who?
D.
Yes.
Where? Oh, hi, D. Sorry I missed you.
Okay, now you can take this for what it's worth. This is what we're doing. You do not have to use this reference, but I use it because I'm already on everybody's radar anyways. So this, oh, I cannot believe that. That was wonderful.
Oh, there you are, D.
Okay.
You.
Anyways, I'm posting a link to this for everybody in the chat. It's the CIA World Fact Book. So if you want to check it out, you can look up any nation, and there's some very interesting things in there listed under each nation, what sort of threat the CIA assesses to it, what type of government they have, what their history is in general. And one of the interesting things is it lists all the treaties that they have signed. And if you just go through the G7, you will see the treaties that they have signed that other nations are members of. And it's more so than the list we just covered too. Something that's very interesting about it, who of you knew or were aware that there was a treaty signed, I believe in 1972, maybe a little later than that, maybe 74 or 76. But back in the 1970s, a treaty signed by nations. The United States is a signator. Syria was a signator, I believe, China, other countries. But not to use, they all agreed not to use weather as a weapon of war. Say what? Back in the 1970s? How in the world can they come? Why would you come to an agreement not to use weather as a weapon of war if you didn't have the ability to use or alter weather systems?
Yes.
Okay. Anyways.
I didn't know that, but yes, I don't doubt it.
Now, can they? I think they can alter them to an extent. Can they create a hurricane? No, I don't think so. Can they magnify or lessen the effects of a hurricane? I believe so. But that's just my opinion. So anyways, that I wanted to cover those about treaties and agreements. Okay, not everybody is going to be in just right, just as Abba has his kingdom, and we're told that people are not going to be allowed to enter the kingdom. It's the same way with Satan's counterfeit. There are not going to be people allowed or nations allowed to join that kingdom. It's an elite club. Okay, in a different and dark and sinister way. Loud seating. Oh, cloud seating. Okay, sorry, D. Anyways, should probably apologize to Gwen since I just blew her ears out.
I'm all right. I forgive you.
Okay, now the other thing is, let me see a show of hands in the chat. Who has seen that movie, The Princess Bride?
Who's gonna confess that?
Who
Go
is
ahead,
going to
Jimmy.
confess that?
Jimmy.
Jimmy's probably watching it right now. The Princess Bride. I see me. No.
Come on, Brenda.
Okay. The Princess Bride. Who's
The
that?
next question is supposed to be how many times have you watched it?
My name is Inicio Montoya. You killed my father.
Okay.
You are going to die, right? Anyways, Ignacio Montoya, right? Remember how he keeps saying, he says it a couple of times throughout the movie, I do not think this word means what you think it means. Right? That is what I believe about the word worship. Okay? Especially when we are talking about in Revelation 13, in verse 15, and he had power, right? The small beast, the Antichrist beast. I'm going to use that term, even though it's the beast out of the earth, the person beast. Okay. And he had the power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So these people are going to worship the beast, right? Verse 12, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So this word worship, I do not think that word means what you think it means. And then, to show how our Father's Spirit works in us, Gwen already found this awesome thing on the word worship. And we didn't even talk about this until this morning. So, Gwen, if you would fill everybody in on that, I would greatly appreciate
it. Yes. Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, so
no, please, go ahead. Right now.
Just a second. Listen, Buster. Okay.
Did you just, my hearing's not that good, and I heard utter. So
you have utters? Stop. Okay, worship. English word, Hebrew word, shah, which is just 3 Hebrew characters. So beginning with Webster's Dictionary, defines worship as the reverent love and devotion accorded to a deity, an idol, or a sacred object. The ceremonies, prayers, or other religious forms by which this love is expressed. As I have stated many times, but it's worth repeating, when we read the Bible, we must define our words from a Hebraic perspective, not from an English one. Unfortunately, when we see the word worship in the Bible, we automatically assume the above definition causes misinterpretation of the biblical text. If I ask the average believer, is it okay to worship a man? The answer would emphatically be absolutely not. We are only to worship God. Below are a few verses that use the word worship to support this view. Genesis 24:26. And the man bowed down his head and worshipped the Lord. 1 Samuel 15:31. So Samuel turned again after Saul, and Saul worshipped the Lord. Psalms 29:2. Give unto the Lord the glory due to his name. Worship the Lord in the beauty of his holiness. First question we must ask is, what is the Hebrew word behind the English word worship, and what does it mean? In each of these verses above, the Hebrew word behind the English word worship is sha'ah, the Strong 7812. This Hebrew word appears 172 times in the biblical text, but only is translated as worship 99 times in the King James Version. Below are some other translations of the same Hebrew word. Genesis 27:29. Let the people serve thee, and the nations bow down to thee. In this passage, the other nations will bow down to the descendants of Jacob. Exodus 18:7. And Moses went out to meet his father-in-law and did obeisance and kissed him, and they asked each other of their welfare, and they came into the tent. In this passage, Moses bowed down to his father-in-law. 1 Kings 1:53. So King Solomon sent, and they brought Adonijah down from the altar, and he came and bowed himself to King Solomon. And Solomon said unto him, Go to thine house. In this passage, Adonijah was found righteous when he bowed down to Solomon. Whenever the Hebrew word shahah, Strong 7812, is used as an action toward God, the translators translate this word as worship. However, when the same Hebrew word is used as an action towards another man, the translators translate this word as obeisance. Sorry, I'm saying it wrong. Bowed or bowed down. Obeisance. Bowed or bowed down. As you can see, the translators are trying to prevent the reader from viewing the text in its proper Hebraic context. The concept of worship, as defined by Webster's dictionary, is not Hebraic in any way and is not found in the Bible. While there is nothing wrong with worship in the sense that we normally understand this word, we should recognize that it is not a biblical concept. If the Hebraic meaning of worship is to bow down before another, whether God or man, as we have seen from the text, then our answer to our question above is yes, it is acceptable to worship other men. While this sentence may sound blasphemous due to our doctrinal view of worship, we can do one of two things. We can remove the word worship from our vocabulary and replace it simply with bow down, or we can use the word worship but recognize that it does not mean what we have always assumed it to mean. The end.
I was busy distracting everyone with grooming. Anyways. What? I was. Anyways. Yes, worship. Now, what that brings me to, what were we talking about earlier? We got these demigods, right? These half man, half God, or lesser gods. Like Loki in Norse mythology, who's a troublemaker, right? He doesn't do any good. He just causes problems. We also have
Coyote, you said?
We have coyote in Southwest Native American, right? Apache, Navajo, some other tribes, Yaqui. He's a troublemaker. Penelope says in Greek the word proskenio, meaning to kiss the hand, as a dog licking his master's hand. And another one of these is kokopelli, right? You'll hear most non-natives say that Kokopelli is the man in the moon. He's just the man in the moon. And what it is, it's a bent over figure playing a flute with things sticking up out of his back and things sticking up out of his head. And then there's other ones too, like Cupid in Greek and Roman mythology. Who else is there?
Well, to talk more clearly about like how would one be considered worshiping those things, or the powers that be, or giving acknowledgement, or giving tribute, or
giving tribute or paying a tribute to them, honoring them, right? So Kokopelli is a god, and I don't know if you saw the River Winds talking about this, but they were saying that Kokopelli, I believe in the Hopi tradition, is a starman or a star being that fell from the sky as a punishment, and basically is not happy about it. They believe that it's possible Kokopelli is the Kokobel mentioned in Enoch as one of the chief of the fallen angels that came down to Mount Hermon. And the Hopis with Kokopelli used to take their children and lock them outside the house to appease this entity, this demigod. But at any rate, that's still considered a type of worship when we're studying these ancient cultures or recent cultures, however you want to look at it. I mean, look at the Christmas tradition of Santa Claus and Krampus, right? In Europe, Krampus, like comes potentially to eat bad children or something on Christmas night. It's kind of weird. And of course, then you have Elf on the Shelf here.
See, like Margie was saying, adoration. And if I'm understanding what that word means, I don't think so. I think like now really comprehending the idea of worship. I looked up the word because I'm doing a little study with my girls in the Lord's Prayer, where Yeshua tells the disciples, this is how we should pray. And so I'm just going to go through that as a little study with me and my girls. Well, it's not going to be little, but just the very first word, our Father. And then so I looked up Father. And so we hear Adonai, like the Hebrew word for father in Hebrew would be Adonai. But actually in its purest sense, it's just two letters. It's the Aleph and the Bet. And the Aleph is the ox and the head, meaning representing strength. And the Bet is like a floor plan of a house or a tent. And then you put the two together and it means strength of covering, like the covering. And so father, like just AB, ab, is the strength of covering. And so I think that when we put ourselves under the covering of someone else, so I view leaders from the smallest example to the most obvious example, big. Like if we put ourselves under a teacher, a pastor, a preacher, a prophet, a rabbi, or we put ourselves under the covering of our leaders of government, from the smallest to our prime minister or to our president, right? We come under their covering, so therefore we submit to whatever they say we're supposed to do. So I think that in that we're worshiping. We're coming underneath their authority, which is, that's how I'm looking at it. You're shaking your head. Are you disagreeing?
No, I'm shaking my head at something else entirely different and unrelated.
Quit being so distracting. I should not look at you while I'm talking, I think. But yeah, anyway, so I think that the idea of worship, when like the little description that I had describes, we just intrinsically, oh, is that the right word? We just automatically feel like it is a feeling, it is a motion of reverence. It is kind of those things, but we're coming up under something and allowing that thing that we're acknowledging to stay over us. So paying tribute to Abba, or paying tribute by signing a document, signing a contract, being counted, a ballot, putting our vote in, whose authority are we coming under, is an act of worship.
Putting our vote in. Oh my goodness. Okay. So yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. That's awesome sauce. Now, here's the thing. What does obeisance mean? Is that what you looked up, or did you look up something else?
I can't even say that word.
Well, I will attempt to
bow
look at
down. It means bow or bow down.
I bet it means a few more things than that too.
Probably, absolutely. I'm sure it does. Yeah.
Let's see. OBE something. OBISANCE. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Does it?
Yes. You didn't ask me if it is correct. You asked me if it sounds correct.
Noun, obeisance. It can be pronounced obeisance, 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 and obeisance. Okay. It's a noun. It's differential respect. They paid obeisance to the priest, or it's a gesture expressing differential respect, such as a bow or a curtsy.
So you can bow or curtsy to a man, or to, like, the angels, that the angel or Yeshua, whomever, whatever, the messenger, we see in scripture many times. Abraham bowed, Moses bowed.
Right. Now, deferential is showing difference or being respectful. Okay, and deference. Humble submission and respect. Okay,
so
respect for.
Oh, it's so much more clear, isn't it? Like, you can give your respect and your honor your leader. You can do that, but
well,
what leader is it?
Look how often we hear people saying, it doesn't matter if you agree with the president of the United States or not. You need to honor the office. You need to show respect to the office of the president, or
yeah,
you can't talk to that person that way. They're a senator of the United States.
Or pledge allegiance.
Right, or pledge of allegiance.
Like, I mean, here you have, okay, Jasmine says Daniel didn't bow. Right. He didn't bow to the false idol or the false god, but I'm sure that if he was visited by an angel, I'm sure he would, or if he ran into an honorable man according to scripture, bowing would be a different concept.
That's true. He didn't bow, but
he had respect.
He had respect for that office of the person who Abba used to take Judah into captivity.
Yeah. He was able, he was used by Nebuchadnezzar and other leaders, Cyrus, right? I think it was Cyrus for a while. So, I mean, if he wasn't respectful, he wouldn't have been called on to be used. But he never compromised and always said, that's my God, you are not. But somehow he was still able to find favor with these pagan leaders. So there was something in his manner by which it did offend them, but he had he had respect with them. Just like the people that come to my door and want me to be counted, right? The census. And I'm like, I'm kind to them because they're a creation, right? I don't know if they are created by Abba, or they were created in a test tube, or they were created in some kind of horrible manipulative environment. I don't know. But I showed that creation respect and said no thank you. But I didn't pay homage to that person or to what they're standing for. Anyway, I know I'm using such small, minute examples, but my brain can only comprehend the small examples right now.
So this is what I want everyone to think about. What is worship? Right? And something else too.
Yeah, that's right, Jasmine.
Right? The first beast, before one of the heads gets a deadly wound, right? Upon his heads, the name of blasphemy. And then after the deadly wound is healed, right? It says there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. It was given unto him to continue 40 and 2 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. So the blasphemy, what is the blasphemy? And I've done a study on that. And if you look up blasphemy and trace it through all the words that it came from, it's, in summary, if you go through all these, in my opinion, you look at it yourself, but it can be seen as cursing man in such a way as to curse God, as well as cursing God directly. And think about all the things we hear from government and science right now, right? Man is causing global warming. So by saying that, they're making an accusation against God's creation and the image of God and removing God from it directly. But then they say, we need to fix the problem that we have created. So therefore, they're putting themselves in the place of God. Right? Man messed it up, so man has to fix it. And yeah, people are going to jump and say Hegelian dialectic, but it's a blasphemy in the sense that they're taking God, our Father, out of the creation all the way, 100%.
KC was saying, I think there really is not much difference in the worship of old pagan statues than when people spend their earned wages to go take a trip and stare at the big cement ex-presidents in DC. Luke 16, parable of the shrewd manager. For people of this world are more shrewd. Use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself so that when it's gone, you will be welcome. Oh, yeah, that is weird. I have to read that one again more clearly.
Howdy, Alonzo. Glad you made it, brother.
Oh, hello, Alonzo. Long time no see. Are you mocking me? I'm always making noises. True story. When I went to ministry school, at the end for graduation, they had put a little like video monologue together about our year that we spent together as a class, right? And they just had little clips of everybody to show like, this is what so-and-so was always doing, and yeah, that's what so-and-so always does, or whatever, right? And so when they came to me, it was always like, you can always tell when Gwen's in the room, because you can always hear, uh-huh, yeah, uh-huh. So, yeah.
That's funny.
Always humming it.
My ex used to do that, and I realized it when we were at some sort of presentation, and she was saying, as somebody else was talking, she kept going, Yeah. And I was trying so hard not to laugh, because that's the way it is.
Yeah, I do it all the time. I try not to, but I can't. I don't know. Even when you're not saying something, you're saying something. So anyway.
This is true. Even when you're not saying something.
Hi, Lino.
What? Lynn made it. You're driving and watching us on YouTube. That's comforting. If you're opening us up to a lawsuit, I'm not happy to hear that.
Put us on speaker and put the phone down. And we'll just turn up the volume.
She's driving from the back seat of her minivan, watching the screen.
She has she's remote control.
She's got it on cruise control.
Oh, I'm at a light. Oh, so funny.
All right. So
technology.
Now, this is what I believe right now. Okay, this can change as events change or whatever, but I believe that the G7 through one or more of its puppet organizations is going to bless or bestow or ignore the actions of the figure that will rise up out of the earth, that has the horns of a lamb but speaks as a dragon, right? That we call Antichrist. And I believe that person is going to be Assyrian. And there's a lot of theories out there on who the actual person will be of the Assyrian. But right now, I believe this is going to be a leader of Turkey. The current one? Maybe, but I don't think so. But it's possible. But I believe that they're going to receive this blessing through NATO, right? North Atlantic Treaty Organization, because Turkey is a NATO member, another NATO member, and give them kind of the green light to go ahead on some sort of rampage. And we will also see the blessing from mutual blessing from the great whore, right, from Babylon. And this is something else I was thinking about, right? How many people out there have ridden horses? Ridden horses or donkeys or other animals? Anybody out there ridden an ostrich? Okay.
I've ridden a horse. Yeah.
You've ridden a horse? Yeah, so via the reins, the input from the reins, right? The person riding the beast controls or gives input into the direction that the beast is going to be headed or going. Okay, now if the great whore is the religious system and putting input in, right, has a hold of the reins. Okay, whether she's writing side settle or not, I don't care. Margaret wrote a turtle once.
No, I just read that.
Okay, anyway. That's right, Penelope, and we are going to see the rider bucked off of the beast, right? Because, as we see in chapter 17, Babylon falls first. Babylon falls first. But,
okay.
Interestingly, of the G7 nations, like I said last time, the Roman Catholic Church has a direct influence on them in some way, shape, or form. And many of them have Jesuits or Roman Catholic members, Jesuit trained or flat out Roman Catholic members in their highest positions of power. Now, even in Japan, there's some people there that are Jesuit educated in high positions of power. And also in the United Kingdom, typically we don't think of England being part of the Roman Catholic Church, right? They're the first Protestant nation. But the Episcopalian Anglican Church is also called Anglican Catholic. Okay? They have all the same rites, they have all the same ceremonies, and I can tell you from being at an Episcopalian school when Pope John Paul II was shot, they were very interested to see who the next pope would be, to see if he was going to reconcile the rift that existed between the two churches, or between those two denominations. And we see now that the current Jesuit pope is reaching out to other denominations and trying to heal that rift. So, as I said before, that world religion, but an elite kingdom, an elite beast. Okay, and it's a mimicry, it's a mocking, a mirror of how our Father's kingdom is, and we know that in the eternity, there's going to be the kingdom, and that nations are going to come to that kingdom to pay their tribute or honor to Yeshua and Abba, Yahuwah, on the throne.
Okay, this is where I want to say it. What I was mentioning earlier before we started live about guarding his commands. And like it mentions it in lots of places about guarding, like it says, keep my commandments. The word keep is actually more accurately rendered guard. And it's the same word used when Adam and Eve were in the garden. They were supposed to guard. They were supposed to keep the garden, meaning guard it and protect it and keep watch, right? And so in 1 John 2, it says, by this we, 2 verse 3, by this we know that we know him if we guard his commands. And the one who says, I know him, and does not guard his commands is a liar, and the truth is not in him. So we can be confident in, and we don't have to be afraid if we do this, if we guard his commands. And we look out there and we're like, how are we supposed to know? How are we supposed to discern? I don't have the gift of discernment. I don't know. Is this one, is it or isn't it evil or whatever? It's really clear. The one who says, I know him, and does not guard his commands is a liar, and the truth isn't in him. So as we study and learn about what's going on in prophecy and what's been spoken and what's been written and what's happening again cyclically, we can be confident if we place our trust in Abba and his word and guard his commands, we'll be able to understand and discern what scripture is saying. So this is where I'm at right now, because there's so much about this G7 and about these prophecies that I don't know. I have to relearn them from scratch all over again, because the first time was just with wrong understanding and the wrong lens. So sometimes I would be a bit leery or a bit unsure of how am I going to be able to figure this out? How am I going to be able to know about all of this and really understand and see what's happening as it's happening before me? So I'm finding comfort in if I guard his commands and look for those other people that are guarding his commands and not putting myself under anybody else's authority except Abba's authority, because he is the strength of my covering, then I'm good to go. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, very good. Do you have anything else?
Nope, I'm good for the moment.
You know what I want to talk about on Sunday? First day? Sorry,
First day.
I would like to talk about what we discussed yesterday a little bit about the semantics of observe versus follow.
I'm having an internal conversation. Yeah, sorry. Stop it. Should have never told you that story.
It's funny that you were saying I had udders at the beginning of the show, and now we're ending the show and you're mooing.
I'm humming. You should have shared something. Oh, okay.
Okay,
I know.
I'm gonna pray out.
It's easy trigger. Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having everybody join us today. Everybody that joined us, and we ask that you continue to let us sharpen one another. Everybody has something to contribute, and teach us. Let us be humble in learning from you, and joining you in all that you do. We thank you very much, and bless everybody that's listening today or in the future. And we thank you for that. And for those people who are assigned to watch this, we ask that you bless them and give them understanding and let them hear your call. And call them also to repentance, to be our brothers and sisters. We thank you for that. In Jesus Yeshua's name, amen.
Amen.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Greatly appreciate you showing up.
The messenger reveals, Jonathan and Gwen, would you like to learn how to use OBS and Zoom for your live streams? It's awesome. Oh, it must be another. I've used Zoom before.
Have you? Is it good?
Yeah, actually, I used it when I was doing like a business conference call with a mutual friend of ours' mother. And yeah, it was fine. She used Zoom.
There used to be a children's television show on PBS called Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, love you all. Talk to you later. Bye.